Imagine trying to navigate thousands of different Ayurvedic herbs without any organization. It would be like having a music library with no genres or playlists or search functions. Complete chaos. And it's an enormous plant database because it also includes food items. Hello and namaste. Welcome to episode 2 of the Ayurvedic Witch series. I'm Monica Groover, your resident Ayurvedic witch. Full disclosure, I'm not really a witch. Just I do a lot of Vedic rituals and goddess rituals. And some of my students call me, you're like an Ayurvedic witch. So I'm just going with it. But that's just full disclosure. Moving on. What are we talking about today? Today, I'm going to talk about something super fascinating. I am talking about how we classify herbs in Ayurveda. So, Ayurveda's approach to classifying herbs is the daddy of all ancient plant medicine. Why am I calling it daddy? It is the mummy of all ancient plant medicine systems, in my opinion. We are talking about a classification method that has come from the different realms and it is trickled down to earth. And it is broken down into simpler texts by ancient sages. We're talking Sushruta Samhita, Bhava Prakasha, and it has been practiced by healers in a guru disciple lineage non-stop for thousands of years. This means Ayurveda was already ancient when our ancestors and their grandparents, 100 times over, were around. While modern medicine often treat plants like they're just walking chemistry sets, the ancient Vaidyas and rishis and sages, who are like the original plant whisperers, had a different way of looking at things. Ayurveda understands that plants aren't just random collections of their small parts. Plants are an extension and limb of Mother Earth. All plants have their personalities and energetic signatures. And they also have what we call prabhava. Think of it as an opinion about how they want to work with your body and mind. It's kind of like how your favorite playlist can either perfectly match your mood or completely clash with your energy. Maybe that's not such a great example, but plants work with their constitution. Ayurveda doesn't just use plants, but anything that works for you. You can have water that is put it out in the sun and you chant on it. You can have water from rain or water from spring water or water from a well, or you can have water chanted on and put in full moon, and the energetic signature will change. It's the same water, but it changes, right? And also, food that we put in our body. There's not a huge distinction between the diet and the herbs in the sense that the food that we're eating and also milk products, ghee, so many things are used there. Ayurveda is more than just herbs. It's not herbology, it's dravyology. We call it anything that is therapeutic, whether it's water or it's ghee or it's milk, it's all used in plant formulation. Coming back to classification, plants work with a constitution. They can either harmonize with what you got going on or throw your whole system off balance. Yes, Ayurvedic plants can also have side effects. And some plants themselves were transplanted from higher realms. There is mention of jamun, berries, mango, brahmi, and amla in heavenly realms. Um, it is said that Lord Shiva sits under this ginormous jamun berry tree. The size of it would make it seem like a fantasy video game to you. Ayurvedic herb framework, honestly, is so comprehensive that it's big picture that it makes other botanical classification look like a baby version of the original. So why have the ancient sages gone through all this trouble of classifying herbs? In Bhava Prakasha, it's called Vargas. In Charaka Samhita, there are two systems of classification of herbs and medicinal plants. The therapeutic classification, the 50 major categories, or Mahakashaya. For example, Jivaniya are the vitalizers or that increase energy, or Kasahara gives supports to cough, Hridaya, cardiotonics, and more. And there are other dravyas, other categories. For example, Triptigna, which enhance appetites, or Kandugna or Krimigna, which are to do with the bugs and parasite support, or Vishagna, helping with toxins, or Balya that are tonics, or Deepaniya that helps with digestive issues, and then Kantia for throat, and so on and so forth. There are actually three main reasons that ancient sages classified. Imagine trying to navigate thousands of different herbs without any organization. It would be like having a music library with no genres or playlists or search functions, complete chaos. So, the classification system basically creates a filing system for an enormous plant database. A lot of these plants don't even exist anymore. They've gone extinct. I mean, if you look at the pharmacological evidence, but many of them do exist. And it's an enormous plant database because it also includes food items. So when you're dealing with literally thousands of documented plants, whether they're grains or herbs or whatnot, you kind of need to make a sense of it all. So you need to classify it. So those who are learning, it helps them, and then what plants play well together, which ones don't. For example, there is a classification in Bhagavad Prakash called Pushpavarga, meaning plants, just flowers. For example, you have fragrant flowers in there. You have roses and hibiscus in that. Or you have Karpura Varga, which are things like frankincense and myrrh and gugulu and all that. Beautiful classification. And some combinations create amazing synergy and others may clash. And people who study Ayurveda know how these work. So the classification system gives us clues about these plant relationships before they're mixed together. And third, and this is where it gets really cool, once an herbalist understands the system, they can make educated guesses about plants they've not worked with before. However, there are ready made formulas that are in Ashtanga Hridayam or Charaka Samhita or Bhava Prakash and Isharanghar Samhita. You can use those formula and mix them together yourself using what is already in the books. So sometimes if you buy these Ayurvedic herbs from India, and oh yeah, if you read Hindi, it's written, for example, there'll be an herb with a name, and it'll say on the side Yoga Ratnakara, or it'll say Ashtanga, meaning that this formula is based on Yoga Ratnakara or Ashtanga or so on. So it's so fascinating. And then there's also the botanical classification. And then botanical classification, you're looking at physical nature and life cycle of plants, herbs. And there are four main categories of botanical herbs, according to Charaka. One is called Aushadhi. That means they'll have fruits that'll ripen and will mature, and then eventually they'll die off. And annuals will come as part of that. And then there's a Vanaspati, which is trees that bear fruit but they don't have any flowering or blossoming. And then there are vanaspatya, that are trees that possess both visible flowers and fruits, and viruddha. For example, creepers, climbers, we call them latas, or plants that spreads and or brambles, for example, blackberry is a bramble and rose is a bramble. Bhumi, Prithvi. Plants are all living beings with their personalities, energetic signatures, and opinions. In fact, just like in a Shinto religion, you've heard, many religions and belief systems, that you have spirits of lakes and forests and so on. Similarly, plants also have presiding deities. You can have different forests that might have a presiding deity, which who's all serve Mother Earth and Mother Nature. But some special sacred herbs are actually extension and actual incarnation of the devis themselves. For example, Tulsi is one of them. Banana is incarnation of Kadli Devi. Tulsi is of Vrinda Devi. Just to give you two examples right on the top of my head. But there's a place in India, and there's a story that comes in Garga Samhita that like Lord Dhanvantari, who's the deity of Ayurveda, when he was Lord Dhanvantari, who's the deity of Ayurveda, when he was living, when he came to earth and when he was about to go, all the climbing creepers, he turned them all into women. There's a mention of incarnations of different herbs that have come from devis in a text called Garga Samhita, which talks about the life of Lord Shri Krishna. For me, coming from India, it was about discovering plants in the West that I had not worked before. For example, by the taste, smell, and where it grows, and what family it's from, what Western herbalists use it for. So yeah, I've been learning about the Western herbs, and the reason why is 'cause I try to make educated guesses about the energetics, which is not foolproof. But I noticed noticed because of having decades of experience working with herbs and spices, I did have a sixth sense. But yeah, I'm learning. So think of being an Ayurvedic herbalist like being able to predict what a new song might sound like. Experienced practitioners can look at how a plant is classified and get a pretty good sense of what it might do and what, if it goes together with A, B, or C, even if you never used it personally. Here's what Ayurveda gets really different from modern medicine. Here's what Ayurveda gets really different from the Western counterpart. Instead of just breaking plants down into chemical counterparts, this is 23% compound A and that's 15% compound X. Ayurveda and Vedic herbalism looks at the whole plant. And Vedic herbalism also believes in chanting and an alternative way and praying over plants and so on and offering it the to the deities and so on that kind of adds that extra vibration. My name is Monica Groover and I'm a Vedic herbalist. And if you want to learn about Vedic herbalism and take some classes, you can go on my website. And I hope you enjoyed the second episode of my Ayurvedic Rich series. Namaste.